officers. You can see the knife right there. You can hear the officers call for him to drop the knife repeatedly. Put the knife down.
America, NYPD officers just released body cam footage showing a 22-year-old man with schizophrenia walking towards them with the kitchen knife, refusing to drop it despite repeated commands. Officers fired. He's now in the hospital after multiple surgeries.
I visited Jabez in the hospital. Jabez has lived with schizophrenia. Jabez needs mental health treatment, not criminal prosecution.
He's questioning protocols that led to the shooting. He wants to create a department where social workers respond to mental health calls instead of police.
They learned the death toll from this dangerous cold has now increased to 16. At least 13 people have died from hypothermia.
And trash is piling up a week after a snowstorm because sanitation is 24 hours behind schedule. What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me show you exactly how NYC socialist mayor is speed running the destruction of basic city services. Let me walk you through what actually happened in Queens, because the body cam footage tells a very different story than Mamdani's narrative. The family of this 22-year-old called 911, saying that he was in terrible emotional distress and needed medical attention.
The shooting of Jabaz Chakraborty became a test case of the mayor's resolve to change the way the city responds to cases involving so-called EDPs, emotionally disturbed people.
So this immediately became a test case for Mamdani's campaign promise to change how NYC responds to mental health calls. He wants social workers instead of cops, but watch what actually happened when officers arrived.
You can see it. It shows him walking with a knife towards the officers. You can see the knife right there. You can hear the officers call for him to drop the knife repeatedly. Put the knife down.
The man is walking towards officers with a large kitchen knife. Officers are backing up, repeatedly commanding him to drop the weapon. He doesn't drop it. He keeps advancing. The officers fire. Now, let me ask you a simple question. What would have happened if Mamdani's social workers showed up instead of armed police officers? You would have a dead social worker. That's what would have happened.
That is why I proposed creating a Department of Community Safety to build a mental health system rooted in prevention, in sustained care, in real crisis response, so officers no longer have to handle these situations alone.
Mamdani says he wants to create this Department of Community Safety so officers no longer have to handle these situations alone. But my friends, here is the problem. He also said that when there's a violent situation with the weapon, NYPD will be on the scene. So who decides if there's a weapon before responders arrive? The 911 call in this case said a man needed medical attention. It didn't say that he had a knife. So under Mamdani's system, social workers would have showed up first, walked into the home with a knife-wielding man in crisis, and probably got stabbed. Now here's the part that should make your blood boil. Mamdani campaigned on this. He told New Yorkers exactly what he was going to do. He promised to send social workers to mental health calls instead of police, and NYC voters elected him anyways.
Every New Yorker deserves to be safe, and today I'm announcing a plan to deliver exactly that. Public safety is created by stable homes, good-paying work, and well-resourced neighborhoods. Addressing these issues are at the core of our campaign. But we must also aggressively pursue evidence-based strategies that prevent violence and crime before they occur. I will create a Department of Community Safety.
Listen to his campaign pitch. Every New Yorker deserves to be safe, and today I'm announcing a plan to deliver exactly that. I'll create the Department of Community Safety.
Police have a critical role to play, but right now we're relying on them to deal with the failures of our social safety net, which is preventing them from doing their actual jobs.
He's framing this like police are being overburdened with mental health calls that should be handled by social workers. But what he's really saying is that armed, trained law enforcement officers shouldn't respond to situations that might turn violent. And New York looked at this plan and said, yeah, that sounds great. Let's send unarmed social workers to deal with people in mental health crises who might have weapons.
That just makes no sense.
This is what happens when you elect a democratic socialist who's never lived in the real world.
If you're going to send only medical professionals there, understand that it's a changing dynamic. Quickly, they can pick up a weapon and charge at them. What are they going to do then? How are they going to defend themselves? That's why the police have to go to these things.
And even the former NYPD chief of detectives is trying to explain the reality to Mamdani. They can pick up a weapon and charge at him. How are they going to defend themselves? The answer here is they can't. And New York City will have a dead social worker on their hands. But Mamdani doesn't care. He's more concerned with his socialist ideology than protecting city workers. Now let's talk about what's happening on NYC streets while Mamdani's busy reimagining policing. 16 people have froze to death during the cold snap. At least 13 people died from hypothermia. And Mamdani's response? Refused to clear homeless encampments.
In 13 of these cases, preliminary findings indicate that hypothermia played a role, and 3 of these deaths appear to be overdose deaths.
13 from hypothermia, 3 from overdoses. And Mamdani claims that none of those who died had been living in an encampment. So his justification for not clearing encampments is that people dying weren't in encampments anyways. But here's the logic problem. If people are dying on the streets from hypothermia, maybe the solution is to get them off the streets and maybe into shelters. But Mamdani refuses to do involuntary removals except as a last resort.
Instead of looking to just push New Yorkers from one encampment to another part of this city, we're going to look to emphasize the services that we can connect those New Yorkers with.
Translation, we're going to let them freeze to death in encampments while we emphasize services instead of actually removing them to safety.
As of this morning, we have made more than 930 placements to shelters and safe havens. We have also involuntarily transported 18 New Yorkers.
So Mamdani's made 930 voluntary placements and only 18 involuntary transports, but 16 people are dead. Maybe, just maybe, he should be doing more involuntary removals when it's literally freezing outside and people are dying. But Mamdani won't do that because his ideology says he can't force people into shelters even when it saves their lives. So people die and he blames cold weather instead of his own policies. Now let's talk about the trash situation, because here's where Mamdani's incompetence becomes almost impossible to ignore. It's been 1 week since the snowstorm and trash is still piling up across NYC.
The havoc this deep freeze and last week's snowstorm have wreaked across New York. And one problem you literally can't miss: towering piles of trash bags sitting for days.
And the sanitation department says trash collection is delayed 24 hours. But here's the problem. It's been a week. How are they still 24 hours behind a week later?
If you've been walking around the city lately, well, you've probably noticed it. Trash bags stacked high, bins are overflowing, and piles of trash are just lining the sidewalks.
And Mamdani's excuse? Sanitation crews have been focused on clearing ice and snow first, so trash collection fell behind.
It was like dealing with rock boulders that the workers were out there trying to chop up to try to open up the walkway. So that definitely slowed down some of the progress.
But here's what makes this even worse. Michael Rappaport, who's no friend of Mamdani, went on social media showing the trash situation on the Upper East Side. The Upper East Side is a wealthier area, and he's calling out the mayor for the garbage everywhere.
Look at this shit. This poor bastard ain't getting out until the spring. Look at this dirt a week after the snowstorm. Look at this dirty hole.
And he points out that this is on the Upper East Side, 3 minutes from where the mayor lives. So even in wealthy neighborhoods, trash is piling up, cars are still buried in snow, and Mamdani is nowhere to be found.
I mean, it's freezing out, so like maybe give them a little bit of grace, but maybe prioritize it at some point.
It's been a week. At what point, my friends, does trash collection become a priority? This is a pattern of socialist ideology crashing into reality. Mamdani wants social workers responding to mental health calls. A man with a knife attacks an officer. Mamdani questions the shooting instead of thanking the officers for protecting themselves. And New York is starting to realize they elected somebody who cares more about his socialist ideology than actually governing. He'd rather let people die than do involuntary removals. He'd rather question police shootings than protect officers. He'd rather make excuses about trash than fixing the problem.
Sanitation is currently running about 24 hours behind on trash collection. I know that they are working with everything that they have
to come up to speed, and that'll continue to be a focus for us.
When does it become more of a focus? When does it become an emergency to actually fix the situation? This is what happens when you elect somebody who's never run anything in their life, never managed a budget, never had to make hard decisions. Mamdani's entire career has been about criticizing people in power. Now he's in power and he has no idea what he's doing. Here's the uncomfortable truth NYC voters need to hear. You voted for this. Mamdani told you exactly what he was going to do. He campaigned on sending social workers to mental health calls. He promised free everything. He promised to stop clearing homeless encampments. He ran as a democratic socialist who would reimagine public safety. And New Yorkers looked at his record, a state assemblyman who accomplished nothing, a socialist who never ran a business, a career activist with zero executed experience, and said, yeah, that's what we want. That's who we want running the largest city in America.
Councilmember Ina Vernikov also took aim at the mayor.
I took a walk on several streets.
It's bad. Honestly, I can't think of another thing to say.
Now you're getting exactly what you voted for. This is the future of every city that elects Democratic Socialists. They promise compassion, get people killed. They promise reform and basic services collapse. They promise change and deliver chaos. New York had a choice. You could have elected somebody with executive experience, somebody who understood how to run a city. Instead, you elected Zohran Mamdani. And now you're living with the consequences. America, NYC just gave you a preview of what happens when Democratic Socialists take power. A man with a knife attacks officers. A mayor questions the shooting instead of backing the cops. 16 people freeze to death, and the mayor refuses to clear encampments because ideology matters more than lives. Trash piles up for a week, and the mayor makes excuses instead of fixing the problem. This is Mamdani's first month in office. 1 month. And he's already got dead homeless people, officers being questioned about defending themselves, and trash covering the streets. Imagine what 4 years is going to look like. NYC voters chose this. The rest of America is watching, and they're learning exactly what not to do. Don't elect socialists. Don't prioritize ideology over results. And don't send social workers to a knife fight. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe. And as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.